They say the deepest kind of hurt comes when someone you trust turns their back on you. I never truly grasped what that meant until the night I sat by myself at a table at Rosemont, staring at the empty chair across from me. That seat was meant for Chloe. But instead of joining me, she was out dancing and laughing at some club, wrapped up in the arms of her ex like I didn't even exist. And what stings the most isn't just that she let me down that night. I had been planning to ask her to marry me. But this story isn't really about how she shattered my heart. It's about how I walked out of her world and wiped away every trace of myself from her life, like we'd never even met. By the time she tracked me down 2.5 years later, I looked her dead in the eyes and acted like I had no clue who she was. At least, that's the version she walked away with. But let's rewind a bit, to the day that split my life into two parts, before and after. Now, I never saw myself as the romantic type, not really. But with Chloe, I wanted to do it right. You only turn 30 once, and after 4 years together, it felt like the perfect moment to take that next step. I'd spent weeks getting everything just right. I planned a rooftop dinner at the Windsor, the very spot where we had our first real date. That place had this soft, golden glow at night, jazz floating through the air, and a view of the city skyline that felt like magic. Chloe always had a soft spot for places like that, the warm lights, the cozy vibe, all of it. It made her feel like the center of the universe. And that's exactly how I wanted her to feel that night. For 4 solid months, I'd been working quietly behind the scenes to make sure every little detail was perfect. I reserved the best table well ahead of time, the one right by the edge, where the whole city stretched out below like a dream. I even made sure the staff would bring out a slice of cheesecake, her favorite, with a candle, right when the time was just right. But the real surprise wasn't the dessert. It was the necklace I had custom-made for her. Gold, simple, elegant, the kind of jewelry she always liked. And on the back of the pendant, I had our anniversary date engraved, the day we officially became us. I wanted her to have something she could wear every day, something that would always remind her of what we had. And of course, there was the ring. I spent weeks hunting for the perfect one. Nothing too flashy, nothing over the top. Just a classic round-cut diamond in a platinum band. Elegant, timeless, and exactly her style. I even brought Emma, her best friend, into the loop, just to make sure I wasn't missing the mark. Emma had been over the moon about it, going on and on about how Chloe would absolutely love it. She's gonna cry, you know, she told me, grinning as she sipped her coffee. She's been dreaming of this, Ethan. I really hoped she was right. I kept the ring in a little velvet box, tucked carefully into my jacket pocket. Every so often, I'd reach up and tap my chest, just to make sure it was still there. It was this nervous little habit I'd picked up, and I couldn't shake it. Tonight was the night everything would change. Chloe had been my everything for 4 years. We met at a friend's backyard barbecue, back when I wasn't even looking for anything serious. She'd just come out of a rough breakup, and somehow, we just clicked. I can still picture her laughing that night, crinkling her nose as she teased me about how terrible my grilling skills were. We hit it off from the start. Those early days were easy. We'd go on late-night drives, take spontaneous weekend trips, stay up too late talking about nothing and everything. She was clever, funny, the kind of person who could brighten up a room just by walking into it. And man, she was gorgeous, long chestnut hair, warm brown eyes, and a smile that could stop me in my tracks. I never really believed in fate, but with Chloe, it felt like the universe had finally lined something up just right. Of course, it wasn't always sunshine and roses. We had our arguments, like any couple. She could be headstrong, and sometimes she got caught up in her own little world, forgetting to reply to texts or showing up late. But it never felt like a deal-breaker. We always found a way to sort things out. That's what love is supposed to be, right? That's why this night meant everything. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just going through the motions. I was all in. So I spent the day making sure I had everything perfect. Left work early, went home, shaved, and put on that navy blazer she always said made me look sharp. I even had my shoes polished, didn't want to miss a single detail. Chloe had been out for most of the afternoon, something about getting her nails done with Emma, which actually gave me the space to finish setting everything up just right. At exactly 6:40, I called her. "Hey, beautiful. You just about ready?" She laughed on the other end, a little out of breath. "Almost." Emma and I totally lost track of time. "I'll be quick, I promise." I chuckled, shaking my head. "All right, I'll see you soon." I grabbed the little gift bag with the necklace inside, double-checked the ring was still in my pocket, and headed out the door. The drive to the Windsor was smooth, sun just starting to dip low, painting the sky in that soft orange light that makes everything feel peaceful. It was one of those perfect spring nights, not too warm, not too chilly, the kind that made sitting outside feel just right. By the time I pulled into the parking lot, I could feel that rush of nervous energy in my chest. This was it. A couple hours from now, everything would be different. I handed my keys to the valet, fixed my jacket, and stepped inside. The host spotted me right away. "Mr. Harrison, your table is ready." I gave him a nod and followed him through the warmly lit dining room. The restaurant looked just like I remembered it. Warm lighting, that cozy, elegant vibe without being too fancy. Soft conversations floated through the air, silverware gently clinked against plates, and somewhere in the background, mellow jazz played like a heartbeat. Our table was right where I'd requested, tucked in the corner with the best view of the skyline. I sat down slowly, one hand resting on the velvet box tucked into my jacket pocket. Everything was ready. Now, all I had to do was wait. I kept glancing at the empty chair across from me, trying not to let the knot in my stomach twist any tighter. The place was buzzing gently with life, couples leaning in close, soft laughter bouncing off the walls, waiters gliding between tables in crisp white shirts. It was the perfect scene, exactly the kind of place Chloe loved, romantic, glowing, with those big floor-to-ceiling windows that made the whole city feel like it was ours. I didn't pick this place by accident. This was our spot. But Chloe wasn't here. I checked my watch. 7:40. She was late, but honestly, that wasn't anything new. Being late was kind of Chloe's trademark. There was always one more thing to fix, one last dab of lipstick, or a quick change of shoes before she walked out the door. It used to frustrate me in the early days, but over time, I learned to just go with it. I tapped my fingers against the edge of the table, trying to shake off the nerves, glancing around like maybe I'd missed her slipping in. The waiter had already checked on me twice. Each time, I'd smiled and said, "Still waiting on someone." At 7:50, I finally sent her a text. "Everything okay? I'm at the table. Can't wait to see you." I kept it light. Didn't want to sound upset. Maybe she lost track of time. Maybe traffic was crazy. A few more minutes passed. Still no response. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. She could be driving. Maybe she was parking. No big deal. I straightened the silverware, folded the napkin across my lap again, and tried to quiet the little voice in the back of my mind whispering that something felt off. The waiter came by a third time, keeping a careful expression. "Would you like to start with a drink while you wait?" I nodded. "Whiskey. Neat." He gave a polite nod, jotted it down, and walked off. 8 o'clock. Still nothing. No text. No call. I pulled out my phone and checked again, just in case I'd somehow missed it. But the screen was blank. No notifications. No missed calls. I took a slow breath, trying to keep my cool. Chloe wasn't the type to just blow off a night like this. Especially not tonight. It was her birthday. She had been talking about turning 30 for weeks. How she wanted to celebrate it right. Make it meaningful. Make it special. This dinner wasn't just some last-minute thing. This night meant something. I took a small sip of the whiskey when it came, letting the warmth slide down my chest. I wasn't mad. Not yet, anyway. Just confused. So I tried calling her. 1 ring. 2. 3. Then voicemail. Her voice played through the speaker, light and playful as ever. "Hey, you've reached Chloe. I'm probably busy being fabulous, so leave a message." I didn't say anything. Just hung up. Now that tightness in my gut had turned to something more like nausea. I stared down at the table, drumming my fingers, mentally running through every possible explanation. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she ran into trouble on the way here. Maybe something urgent came up and she hadn't had time to call. Maybe. By 8:20, the place was filling up fast. More couples arrived, clinking glasses and laughing like everything in the world was just fine. The table beside me erupted in a toast. Someone's birthday, maybe. I noticed the waiter glance at me again, this time with a flicker of sympathy in his eyes. That's when I felt it, embarrassment. Like everyone around me could see what I didn't want to admit yet. She wasn't coming. Somehow I knew. Still, I wasn't ready to move. Not just yet. I sent one more text. "You okay?" No response. Eventually, I flagged down the waiter. "Can I get the check?" He paused, like he wanted to ask if I was sure, but then nodded. "Of course, sir." By the time he returned, I already had my wallet in hand. I paid in cash, didn't want to deal with the extra weight, or worse, the awkward pity. I sat there for another minute, staring down at the untouched meal and the empty whiskey glass. Then, Without thinking, I reached for my phone and opened up social media. It was just supposed to be a quick check, just to see if Chloe had posted anything, maybe a clue, a photo, something that could explain why she hadn't shown up. I wasn't expecting much, but the second the app loaded, my heart dropped into my stomach, right at the top of my feed. A live story, posted by Olivia, one of our mutual friends. It was shaky and fast-moving, the kind of video you only half pay attention to at first. Neon lights pulsing, a crowd of people dancing, loud bass booming in the background. Just a typical club scene. But then the camera shifted and my breath caught. There she was, Chloe, laughing, twirling under the neon lights with a drink in her hand, her head tilted back in that carefree way she always had when she was totally in her element. She looked radiant, like the world couldn't touch her, like she didn't have a single thing weighing on her. And right behind her, his hands on her waist, was James, her ex. I felt something cold and heavy drop straight into my chest. It took a moment to even register what I was looking at. Chloe, my Chloe, wrapped up in James's arms like it was nothing. Like tonight didn't mean anything. Like she hadn't just stood me up on the night I planned to ask her to be my wife. I stared at the screen, my grip tightening on the phone until my knuckles turned white. This wasn't some random party video. This wasn't a misunderstanding. She didn't forget. She chose this. The video kept rolling. The camera shifted again, giving me an even clearer shot. James leaned in close, said something in her ear. She laughed, grinned, and turned toward him, resting her hand on his chest like it was the most natural thing in the world. Something inside me twisted hard. I'd never been the jealous type. I wasn't possessive. But this wasn't jealousy. This was betrayal. I watched, frozen, as Chloe kept dancing. James's hands rested on her hips, steady and familiar, like he'd held her that way 1,000 times before. And then, I noticed the dress. It was the black one. The one with the low-cut back. The same one she had asked me about just a few days ago for our dinner. She had planned this. My pulse was pounding in my ears now. I took a slow, shaky breath, trying to get a grip. I wanted to look away, to shut it all off, to erase the image burned into my brain. But I couldn't. I kept watching. Olivia's camera caught Chloe's face again, this time, fully in view. She wasn't tipsy. She wasn't distracted. She was happy. Genuinely, weightlessly happy. Like she didn't have a boyfriend. Like I wasn't even a thought in her mind. My jaw tightened. This wasn't an accident. She hadn't gotten caught up with something or lost track of time. She hadn't been delayed. She had ditched me. On her birthday. On our night. For him. I sat there in that dim restaurant, the candle in front of me flickering like it had no idea my world had just collapsed. I couldn't move. I felt hollow. Not angry. Not yet. Just empty. Like the emotional hit had landed, but the pain hadn't caught up to it yet. The waiter came by again, quiet and polite. "Sir, would you like?" "No." I stood up so fast my chair scraped across the floor. My heart was thudding, but it wasn't sadness anymore. It was something colder, sharper. I wasn't going to sit here like some poor fool, staring at my phone while the woman I was about to propose to was out grinding on her ex. No. I needed to see her. I needed to look her in the eye. I needed her to understand exactly what she'd just thrown away. I barely remembered the drive to the club. My hands gripped the wheel so tight they ached, and my jaw was locked like concrete. All I could see was that video playing on a loop. Chloe laughing, James holding her like she belonged to him. The club wasn't far, 15 minutes, maybe, but I swear it felt like I flew there. I pulled into the lot and killed the engine. Didn't even check the lines. Just parked and got out. The bass from inside was pulsing through the pavement, matching the rhythm of the fury in my chest. I didn't know what I was going to say when I saw her. Ask why? Demand the truth? Or just stand there and watch her lie to my face? Didn't matter. I was going in. The bouncer barely glanced at me, too busy dealing with a group of girls laughing their way inside. I slipped past, straight into the heat and sound. The place hit me like a wall, music pounding, bodies moving shoulder to shoulder, flashes of pink and blue lights cutting through the haze. It smelled like sweat, alcohol, and cheap perfume. I scanned the crowd, stomach churning, eyes darting. And then, I saw her. Chloe. Right in the middle of the dance floor. Still in James's arms. Her arms were looped around his shoulders. His hands were locked on her waist. Like they were the only two people in the world. She was smiling. Completely caught up in the moment. Like nothing else existed. Like I didn't exist. And something inside me just snapped. I started moving, pushing through the crowd without thinking, not caring who I bumped into. Someone cursed under their breath when I brushed past, but I barely heard it. Then Chloe saw me. Her laughter died in an instant. The smile slipped from her face, and for a second, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Shock. Maybe guilt. Maybe even fear. James turned too. At first, he looked confused, but then that smug, cocky grin started forming. Like he thought this was some kind of joke. Like he was waiting for me to make a scene. I didn't say a word. I just pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, and held it up. The video played. The same one from Olivia's story. Chloe laughing. James's hand rested on her back. The way she leaned into him like she belonged there. I didn't watch the video. I watched her. Her eyes went wide. Her lips parted. Her whole body stiffened. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. James let go of her, backing off like he suddenly realized this wasn't a game anymore. Chloe swallowed hard. Tried again. Ethan, it's not. I didn't respond. Didn't blink. Just stared. She licked her lips, shifting uncomfortably. It didn't mean anything. I let out a slow breath, the kind you take when you're holding back a storm. Didn't mean anything? I said, my voice calm too calm. She nodded quickly, reaching out like she could still fix it. I was just caught up in the moment. It was stupid. I wasn't thinking. I stepped back before she could touch me. Her face crumpled. Ethan, please. I wasn't. I was going to propose to you tonight. I didn't raise my voice. But those words landed hard. They hit like a punch. Chloe froze. Even James looked stunned. All around us, people kept dancing. The music thumped, the lights flashed. The world just kept moving. But Chloe? She turned pale. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I nodded slowly, more to myself than to her. Yeah, I said, slipping my hand into my jacket pocket and brushing against the velvet box. I had the ring with me. I had it all planned out. She took a shaky breath. Ethan, But I was already done. Whatever explanation she had, whatever lie she was about to spin, I didn't care. There was nothing left to fix. I stepped past her, past James, past the music, the sweat, the lights, and I walked out. I didn't go home right away. Didn't have a plan. I just drove. The road stretched out in front of me, and I let it. No destination. Just me and the hum of the engine. My hands gripped the steering wheel harder than necessary. My mind was a mess, tangled up in 1,000 thoughts that wouldn't settle. Somewhere along the way, the anger burned out. What was left was something colder, cleaner, more final. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to plead or argue. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for Chloe to feed me some half-baked excuse. I was done. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the decision had already settled deep in my bones. No second-guessing. No hesitation. I was cutting her out of my life. I walked into the house, my house, and for the first time, it didn't feel like ours. It felt like it always should have. Mine. I bought it before Chloe. Paid every mortgage. Fixed every leak. Painted every wall. She moved 1.5 years after we started dating. Never put a cent into it. Her name wasn't on the deed. She had no claim. I locked the door behind me and stood there for a second, breathing in the silence. Then I went to the bedroom. Grabbed a suitcase. I didn't take my time. I didn't hesitate. Clothes first. Every dress, every sweater, every random outfit she left draped over chairs instead of hanging up. Shoes went in next. No matching. No sorting. Then the bathroom, her brush, her makeup, the expensive shampoo she always made me pick up for her. I didn't touch the framed pictures. The ones from trips, weddings, holidays. I left those. Let her come back and see the empty spaces. Let her feel what it's like to be erased. I grabbed another suitcase for the rest, her laptop, her books, all the little things she'd scattered around over the years. By the time I finished, the house already felt lighter, like it had finally exhaled. I zipped up the bags, carried them to the front porch, and lined them up neatly by the door. Then I changed the locks. Quickly. Efficiently. Swapped out the deadbolts with the spare set I'd bought months ago, back when things first started feeling off. It didn't take long. 35 minutes, maybe. By the time I finished changing the locks, the house felt like mine again. There was no way for her to come back inside. No back door to sneak through. No key that would still fit. No way for her to fix this. I stood on the porch, staring at the suitcases. Not with anger. Not even sadness anymore. Just relief. I turned around, stepped back into the house, and locked the door behind me. Then I went straight to bed. Didn't wait for her to come knocking. Didn't call. Didn't care. The sun was barely up when I drove to the hardware store and picked up a for sale sign. I didn't hesitate. Didn't overthink it. Chloe had already stained this house, turned it into something I couldn't stand to look at. There was no fixing that. No bringing it back to what it was before. I got home, walked out to the front lawn, and planted the sign right into the grass. Then I went inside, made a cup of coffee, and waited. She showed up 2 hours later. I saw her pull into the driveway through the living room window. Her car jerked as she hit the brakes too fast. And for a minute, she just sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at the house. Then she climbed out. She looked like hell. Hair a mess. Makeup smudged, like she hadn't bothered to wash her face from the night before. Still wearing that same black dress, the one she had on when they were together. She walked toward the porch slowly, cautiously. Her eyes scanned the area until they landed on the suitcases. I watched the shift in her face, confusion, realization, panic. She rushed to the door, digging into her purse for her key. And then she stopped. She saw the new lock. Froze. But still, she tried. Jammed the key into the deadbolt, twisted, pulled, tried again. Nothing. Her shoulders tensed. She knocked once. Then again, harder. Ethan. Her voice cracked. Ethan, are you home? I was. But I didn't answer. She knocked again. Ethan, please, just open the door. Let's talk, okay. I took a slow sip of my coffee, watching her from the window. She leaned her forehead against the door. Her breath hitched. And then, to my complete disbelief, she kissed the door. Like somehow, that would open it. Like that would open me. She let out a soft sob. Her hand slid down to the frame. Please, she whispered. I'm sorry, okay? I messed up. Just let me in. I stared into my coffee mug, swirling it slightly. Watched the liquid spin. And I thought about every night I waited up for her. All the times I put her first, even when it left me drained. All the years I gave her everything I had. And now? She was just a stranger crying on my porch. I didn't say a word. Just stood there in the quiet. Eventually, she must have understood. There was nothing left to fix. She stepped back, looked around, and then she saw the for sale sign. Her whole face collapsed. She covered her mouth with one hand, wiped at her eyes with the other. Then she turned, picked up the suitcases, and walked back to her car. I watched her drive away, and I didn't feel a damn thing. For the next 3 days, I left my phone off. Not on silent. Not on do not disturb. Off. No buzzing. No pop-ups. No missed calls begging for attention. Just silence. I didn't want to hear her voice. Didn't need to hear her cry. Didn't care what excuses she was ready to spit out. She made her choice. Now she had to live with it. By the 4th day, curiosity got the best of me. I powered the phone back on. Took about 3 seconds for the flood to start. Missed calls, 31. Voicemails, 11. Texts, 38. Most were from Chloe. A bunch from Emma, her best friend. Even a couple from Olivia, the one who posted the video. I didn't read a single one. Didn't listen. Didn't even open the log. I scrolled down to Chloe's contact. Pressed and held. Blocked. Emma? Blocked. Olivia? Blocked. Any number I didn't recognize? Blocked too. Then I shut the phone off again. Tossed it on the couch. Let them talk to voicemail. Let them wonder where I went. 2 days after I locked her out, Chloe showed up at my office. But I wasn't there, because I had already quit. The day after I kicked her out, I walked into work like it was any normal morning. Nodded at the receptionist. Grabbed my usual cup of coffee from the break room. Sat at my desk. And then I just stared at my computer screen, thinking about how much I hated that job. 7 years of the same routine. 7 long years. 7 years of sitting through pointless meetings that could have been emails. Of dealing with office politics, fake smiles, and pretending I cared about deadlines that didn't mean anything to me. I stayed because it felt safe, stable, practical. That was how I lived, always choosing what made sense. And where did that get me? Sitting alone at a table on a night that was supposed to be special, the night everything changed. I looked around my desk, at the neat stack of reports, the company calendar tacked to the wall, and a framed photo of Chloe and me from a trip a year ago. I picked up the frame, flipped it over, slid the picture out and just stared at it. Then I ripped it clean in half and dropped both pieces in the trash. By lunchtime, I was in my boss's office handing in my resignation. He blinked, eyebrows raised. Ethan, you're one of our best. What's going on? I gave him a polite smile. Just time for a change. He sighed, rubbed his temples. You know you're supposed to give at least 2 weeks notice. I shrugged. That was it. By the time Chloe showed up at my office, I was long gone. The receptionist, Nancy, a sweet older lady, looked up from her desk when Chloe walked in. Ethan, she repeated. Oh, honey. He quit. Packed up and left 3 days ago. Chloe just stood there, frozen. But he worked here for years. Nancy gave a small shrug. Yes, he was ready for something new. Chloe opened her mouth, maybe to argue, maybe to ask something else, but she didn't say a word. Because I wasn't there. I wasn't anywhere. That night, she started searching online. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Nothing. Not just inactive, gone. She typed my name into search bars. Checked old tags. Scrolled through mutual friends. But I had already taken care of all of that. The night I changed the locks, I also logged into every social account I had. I unfriended anyone connected to her. Blocked Chloe. Blocked her friends. Blocked anyone who might try to feed her information. And then I shut it all down. Not just a pause. Not just taking a break. I erased myself from the internet. To Chloe, it was like I never existed. No photos. No updates. No trail to follow. I could imagine the frustration building. The rapid clicking. The rising panic. I could see her in my mind, sitting in the dark, scrolling through old photos, old posts, desperate for something, anything, to pull me back into her world. But she couldn't. She'd lost her grip. And I was never coming back. 2.5 years passed. I didn't keep tabs on Chloe. Didn't ask mutual friends. Didn't scroll through social media looking for her name. As far as I was concerned, she disappeared the moment I shut that door behind her. But life's got a strange sense of humor. Because I didn't go looking for answers. They came looking for me. I started hearing things, through whispers, through people who talk when they think you're not listening. Even when you try to disappear, the past has a way of catching up. From what I heard, things didn't go well for her after I vanished. At first, she pretended not to care. Told her friends she was better off. That I was overreacting. Too sensitive. Too dramatic. She dove headfirst into that same lifestyle that tore us apart: parties, clubs, drinking, random flings. She surrounded herself with the same type of people who had been at that club the night she blew it all up, people who didn't think past tomorrow, who didn't care about consequences. She kept up the act for a while. But reality doesn't let you play pretend forever. She burned through her savings faster than she thought she would. The brunches, the weekend getaways, the shopping sprees, fun when you've got a safety net. A lot less fun when that net is gone. She had always leaned on me, my job, my paycheck, the home I provided. Without me, she started to realize how little she actually had. She tried to keep up with rent in the fancy apartment she moved into after I kicked her out. But as the money ran out, so did her options. Credit cards? Maxed out. Friends? Tired of loaning her money for drinks, for rides, for bailouts. And then, finally, James left. Of course he did. Maybe she thought he'd stay. Maybe she really believed he'd suddenly become the man she always wanted him to be. But that was the thing about James, he was part of her past. I had been her future. No? She had neither. And when James walked away, everything else started crumbling too. She tried to find another cushy office job, something simple, something where she could sit in an air-conditioned room, fire off a few emails, and coast like she used to. But without a real resume, without someone to vouch for her, those doors started slamming shut fast. So she settled, took whatever she could get. And what she got wasn't much. She ended up in a tiny, run-down one-bedroom on the edge of town, the kind of place she used to scoff at. Thin walls. Rattling pipes. A heater that barely coughed out warmth in the dead of winter. And she got a job. Not in marketing. Not behind a desk. But in a kitchen. As a dishwasher. Those same hands that used to scroll through luxury spa menus. The same fingers that wore designer rings and tapped on wine glasses at rooftop lounges, now spent hours soaked in greasy dishwater. She scrubbed crusty plates. Stacked trays. Hauled bags of trash out into dark alleys behind the building. And nobody called her charming anymore. No compliments. No flattery. She was just a name on a shift schedule. Just another person trying to make rent. Trying to piece together what the hell went wrong. Sometimes, in the beginning, she'd still ask around. Try to fish for updates about me. See if anyone knew where I went or what I was doing. But there was nothing to find. I made sure of that. Right after I quit my job, I packed up and left the city. Moved to another state. Clean slate. Took some time to figure out who I was without her. Built something new. Something mine. And by the time I came back, I was a ghost. New apartment. New job. New habits. She could have walked right past me on the street and never had a clue. She had no way to reach me, no way to fix what she broke. And honestly, that was the point. But then, there was this one night. A night that caught us both off guard. It had been another rough shift for Chloe. Her back was aching. Her hands were raw from hours and boiling dishwater. Her shirt clung to her from the kitchen heat, soaked in the usual mix of fryer oil and old beer. That smell had become so familiar she didn't even notice it anymore. She glanced at the clock, still an hour to go. Most nights, she just powered through, kept her head down, focused on getting to the end of the shift. Then back to her lumpy mattress, 5 hours of sleep, and the same routine again the next day. But something felt different that night. There was a buzz in the air, a weird energy that didn't belong in that back room full of steam and dishes. It started when Lily, one of the younger servers, barely out of high school, burst into the kitchen on her toes like she was floating. "Oh my God," she whispered to one of the other waiters, grinning wide. "It's happening." Chloe didn't pay it much attention at first. Restaurant gossip wasn't her business. But then another server came in, beaming. "It's so romantic," she sighed. "I wish someone would do that for me." Chloe's hands paused over the sink. She set down the plate she'd been scrubbing. "What's going on?" she asked, drying her hands on a towel. Lily turned toward her, eyes wide. "Some guy's proposing. Right now. Out in the dining room." And just like that, Chloe felt something twist inside her. A proposal. For a moment, she couldn't move. Then, like her body was moving without her brain, she stepped away from the sink, walked toward the narrow hallway that led to the front of the restaurant. She didn't even know why. Curiosity, maybe. Or something deeper. Something she hadn't let herself feel in a long time. She stopped just short of the dining room, tucked behind the corner where she could peek without being seen. There they were. A young couple, standing near one of the candlelit tables in the center of the room. The man, tall, dark hair, nervous but smiling, was down on one knee, holding out a small velvet box. The woman gasped. Her hands flew to her mouth. The whole restaurant went quiet, eyes locked on them. He said something soft, just for her. She paused, then nodded. "Yes," she whispered. The place exploded in cheers. Waiters clapped. Diners laughed. Someone let out a loud whistle from the back. The couple hugged, the woman wiping tears, the man slipping the ring on her finger. Chloe just stood there, frozen, watching, remembering. The candles, the velvet box, the moment. It was too close, too familiar. That was supposed to be her story, her moment. But she had thrown it all away. Her heart pounded. She stepped back slightly, gripping the edge of the wall to steady herself. And that's when she saw me. I was sitting near the bar, watching the proposal play out with this small, knowing smile on my face. I looked good, better than she probably remembered. My hair was shorter, my jaw a bit sharper. Time hadn't worn me down. It had sharpened the edges, refined me. I looked calm, comfortable, like I belonged there. And I wasn't alone. There was a woman sitting next to me, leaning into my shoulder, laughing at something I just said. She had that effortless kind of beauty, the kind that didn't need loud makeup or flashy clothes to be noticed. Her hand rested gently on my arm, her fingers brushing the fabric of my sleeve in a way that said we were more than just casual company. And that's when Chloe saw me. Her breath caught in her throat. I could feel the shift in the air before I even turned. That weight, like a storm, had just rolled in. So I glanced over. And there she was, Chloe, standing near the entrance to the dining room, eyes wide, lips parted, frozen like she didn't know whether to come closer or run. She looked pale, almost fragile. And for just a second, I saw the older, the one who used to light up every room. But the light wasn't there anymore. Then she moved. Fast. She pushed through the crowd, bumping a server and nearly sending a tray of drinks flying. Someone swore at her, but she didn't even blink. Her eyes were locked on me. Like nothing else existed in that room. I set down my glass and exhaled. "Here we go, Ethan." She reached me, voice cracking. "Oh my God, it's really you." I didn't say anything, just looked at her. Up close, she looked worn. Not older, exactly. Just different. Like life had been hard lately, and it showed in the small things. The way her shoulders slumped. The tension around her mouth. The way her hands twitched nervously at her sides. She started, then stopped. "Ethan, I'm so sorry. I swear, I never meant to." I tilted my head, like I was trying to remember her face. Like she was just some woman I'd seen once but couldn't quite place. Because honestly, that's what she was now. A stranger. She kept going, words tumbling over themselves. I made a mistake, okay? I was stupid. I lost everything, Ethan. I lost you. Her voice cracked, and she reached out for me. I stepped back. She froze like I'd slapped her. And then I shrugged. Calm. Quiet. Cold. Girl, who are you? Her breath hitched. Her hands balled into fists. I don't know you, I said. And then, just to make sure the message landed, I added with a soft, almost amused breath. And if I did, you were unpleasant to me. It hit her like a gut punch. She staggered back, eyes full of something between heartbreak and disbelief. But there was nothing left to say. Nothing left to fix. I let the silence stretch between us. Just long enough for the weight of it all to sink in. Then, without another word, I turned my back to her. And walked away. The curtain. Let me know in the comments. What was the most satisfying part of Ethan's revenge? Changing the locks? Disappearing completely? Or telling her the truth to her face? If you liked the story, hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and stick around. We've got more coming.